This could change everything for the Edmonton Oilers on July 1st. Yes, we're not talking about the trade deadline on March 7th. We are looking ahead to July 1st on the first day of free agency. And you saw the man in the intro. Yes, Mikko Rantanen to the Edmonton Oilers. Who knows? We will discuss that on today's episode. The Oilers do have an off day, but we don't, as the Oilers are gearing up to take on the Detroit Red Wings tomorrow night. But for any and all Oiler news, Oilers Digest is the place to be if you're part of the 18% that have subscribed to the channel. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. But once again, if you're part of the 81%, almost 82% that haven't subscribed to the channel, folks, what are you waiting for? Again, we are the place to be for any and all Oiler news. But yes, you saw him in the intro, and you're asking me many, many questions. Hopefully, I can answer all of them with so you're telling me there's a chance? Yes, Andy Strickland on the Cam and Strick Hockey podcast was speculating a very familiar name that we've seen in the news for the past week. Yes, Mikko Rantanen to the Edmonton Oilers on July 1st. This is what he had to say. He said, you want to know where Mikko Rantanen is going to end up? Edmonton. He's going to Edmonton. I think that there would be some interest from him. There's some beliefs that they can make that happen, so you got to look at who's coming off the books and all that type of stuff. And the salary cap going up, however they structure it. They can obviously create space. Players come off the books. Draisaitl and Rantanen also had the same agent in Andy Scott. It's not long before I think they're one player away from truly having that ability to create that dynasty. Well, if they didn't have that ability to create the dynasty with Draisaitl and McDavid, I have lots of questions. But Mikko Rantanen, of course, traded to the Carolina Hurricanes from the Colorado Avalanche. There was lots of speculation that the Avalanche and Mikko Rantanen wouldn't be able to come to an agreement on a contract extension on July 1st. Rantanen asking for Draisaitl type money with $14 million. If the Avalanche can't pay him $14 million, what makes you think the Oilers can? The optimist in me likes to think that, hey, it'd be cool if the Oilers can somehow, find their way through some cap gymnastics to be able to acquire Mikko Rantanen. But the pessimist in me thinks that, there's just far too much work involved to try and get something like that happening and shorthand your team in the process. Sure, it'd be, a world beater trio of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Rantanen, and then you have the scraps in the bottom six that the Oilers can't afford to sort of shorthand in this time of having McDavid and Draisaitl. But again, I'm not saying I wouldn't like Mikko Rantanen on the Oilers. You can see the stats with the Colorado Avalanche ever since he came into the league in 2015. Of course, he did have 2 seasons down in the AHL with San Antonio, or 56 games altogether, I should say, with San Antonio before becoming a full-time NHLer there. You can see 55 goals in 2022-23, back-to-back 100-point season, 105 and 104, but Carolina knew what they were getting with Mikko Rantanen. Of course, they traded for him to be able to get the first bidder's rights on Mikko Rantanen's contract extension, and part of me thinks that they will keep Mikko Rantanen, but, Mikko Rantanen's dad gave an interview to Finnish media. He said it's not the biggest major city, and that's not a problem. Mikko likes places that are a little smaller / calmer. He's a country boy from Finland. Lesser amount of lights will be sufficient. I mean, if you want that, Edmonton, perfect place for Mikko, but again, with the Oilers, lots of contracts here. McDavid, $12.5 million for 2 more seasons. Leon Draisaitl, his last year of what seems to be the biggest bargain contract in NHL history before his $14 million contract kicks in next season. Of course, you have Zach Hyman at $5.5 million for 4 more seasons, or 3 more seasons after this one, I should say. Evander Kane, still the $5.125 million, still 1 more season after that one. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, still 4 more seasons of him, and still lots of other question marks, including the Darnell Nurse contract. It's still 4 more years of that one. You have 2 more years of Matisse Ekholm in. Of course, the big question mark being, what are they gonna pay Evan Bouchard this season? Lots are saying, bridge him 2 years, walk him to free agency. Others saying lock him up long term. But you know what? They should lock him up long term. But with Rantanen, again, if the Oilers do somehow manage to sign him a free agency, they run the risk of, ending up like the Toronto Maple Leafs, where they have $45 million locked up into 4 players. And you know what happens when you do that? This is what your bottom 6 looks like. I mean, again, sure, dynamite top 6 for your team, but the bottom 6, again, the salary cap, presents a challenge in the NHL, to not completely overpower one team, because if the salary cap did not exist, then you have teams like the 2002 Detroit Red Wings with Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov, Brett Hall, Steve Yzerman, Nick Lidstrom. You have on and on and on, just a team full of Hall of Famers, even a rookie Pavel Datsyuk. So the salary cap, I do like it. I also don't like it, as it's kind of, again, shorthands many teams, but that's the salary cap world we live in. And even though it's projected to jump up to at least 92.4 million next season, that still doesn't really help out the Oilers in a potential Mikko Rantanen extension. Again, I would love him on the team. I almost had to humor that quote there from Andy Strickland saying, how are the other teams in the NHL going to afford him? Like Vegas was thrown out there, Dallas thrown out, pretty much all the big boys in the NHL. Again, I don't want to say linked to Mikko Rantanen, but on July 1st, one of these teams is going to sign him. Again, I do think it's going to be Mikko Rantanen. Even he doesn't know what's going on here with Carolina. He says it's only been 4 days. I got to be honest, I haven't had any chance to think about an extension, just trying to get into the group and play well. So I think we'll have to think about those situations in a couple weeks or so. And again, they did trade Martin Necas in Jack Drew, as well as a second-round pick in this year's draft and the fourth rounder in 2026 to the Avalanche. So I don't think the Carolina Hurricanes would have got rid of those two players, both very young, stellar players in the Canes organization, for, a rental in Mikko Rantanen, because Eric Tulsky, he's one of the most big-brain general managers in the NHL. He doesn't do things without a clear purpose. So I think Mikko Rantanen, July 1st, my money is on the Carolina Hurricanes, even though, again, it'd be nice to have Rantanen on the Oilers, but they can put that money into much better assets there. But, again, speculation, that's all you can really do in this day and age. You can speculate until something actually comes out. But that's it on the Mikko Rantanen fiasco there. It was kind of funny. I saw, ran into the Oilers, question mark. I thought, that can't be real, until I read the quote, and there was, a glimmer of hope inside me, and then that quickly was dashed when I looked at the Oilers salary cap situation. But we're talking about practice now. Yes, with the Edmonton Oilers on their off day, they were still practicing. And, when it comes to Kris Knoblauch in the Oilers, there is still lots of hockey to be played, and even still lots of international hockey to be played for guys like Mattias Ekholm, Connor McDavid, and Victor Arvidsson. I almost forgot his name for a second, as they were named to Team Sweden and Connor McDavid to Team Canada. But the Oilers still have one more day to wait until their next game against the Detroit Red Wings at 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Mountain. Kris Knoblauch was asked about the past two games the Oilers have played and what they can do differently and what he'd like to see different. Of course, we want to tighten things up. I think in the Seattle game, we gave up too many chances. Also in the Buffalo game, definitely too many chances and too many shots against. A lot of time is, it's some defensive play, but I think a lot of it is also puck play, and I don't think we're moving the puck as well, whether that's the defenseman making a breakout pass, whether it's the forwards on the attack that just turn the puck over and then being in a position to defend. So yeah, there's things that we can do better in our zone, but for me, I think a lot of it has to be with the puck. And I noticed, again, the past two games against Seattle and Buffalo, the Oilers sort of fighting the puck most of the game, and more often than not just doing things that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to do. Just, I don't want to say boneheaded plays, but just plays that, there were better options, but they chose the worst one. But at practice this morning, the line rushes here from Bob Stauffer of the Oilers Radio Network. Some notable names out today with Mattias Ekholm in Kasperi Kapanen. But looking at the line rushes here, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid in Connor Brown inserted on the top line there. Vasily Podkolzin and Leon Draisaitl in Victor Arvidsson. Jeff Skinner out of prison once again next to Adam Henrique in Zach Hyman. And then lastly here, no Philp, Mattias Janmark, and Corey Perry. Knoblauch was also asked about, Philp in Janmark, and that'd be sort of a situational time where, Janmark and Philp would both play center on that line. And theoretically, all three can play center on that line, with Perry also being at center too, but Perry on the wing. And then Troy Stecher with Darnell Nurse, and then John Klingberg in Mattias Ekholm's spot next to Evan Bouchard, and then Brett Kulak in Ty Emerson, and then new father, or for the second time, I should say anyway, Stuart Skinner back between the pipes with Calvin Pickard being his backup. And of course, Kapanen and Ekholm were not present at practice today because they are sick, and you saw John Klingberg there next to Evan Bouchard, but his debut status still up in the air. Knoblauch shares it hasn't been decided whether or when John Klingberg will draw in for his first game with Edmonton. We like this week, but if it doesn't happen this week, it will be next week. We're just taking it day by day. Of course, Klingberg still has to be checked out by the medical staff for them to give the final go ahead. But that is it for today's episode. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about, Mikko ranting to the Oilers. Half of me thinks it's, clickbait, to get engagement from Andy Strickland. The other half of me is just, just to drive up interest for Mikko Rantanen. But I mean, how much more interest can be driven up for him? But make sure to subscribe here to the channel if you haven't already, and we will be back tomorrow for an Oilers Wings preview. Take care. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, folks. It's the middle of the week. We're almost to Saturday. Take care. I'm Matt.